peace and love. Welcome to the Up in the Corner. Always down low, down the bottom.
See that blue button?
All right, good morning, peace and love. We live this morning with the Peace in the Morning Show. This is Darius A. Stanton, your host, and we have a show for you today. Icebergs breaking away, Trump's son giving up his emails, and we are talking about race relations in America. What's real, or is it the okie doke? I'm also here with the good brother in our corner, Delegate Darrell Barnes. What's up, Big D?
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
No doubt it's hump day, and so we're going to get over the humpity hump. You know we're on our way to Funky Friday, and that's going to be another funky one.
That's a big one.
That's right, and today we have calling on the line, a local favorite, national star, been doing comedy for a long time. As a matter of fact, he'll start talking to you like this because he likes to impersonate people. So he impersonates a lot of people, including Bill Cosby, President Clinton, just the Jesse Jackson. The names just go on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have Carl. Yes, that's right. We'll have the man himself calling in this morning. You'll see him. Matter of fact, I'll just let you talk to him. Chris Thomas when he calls in on the line. And in the studio today, for the very first time, but we trust that it won't be a last, a true fighter for his community, a man of God, both in and out the pulpit, president of the NAACP in Anne Arundel County, and author of Stop Falling for the Okie Doke, How the Lie of Race Continues to Undermine Our Country, Pastor Tillett, Stephen Tillett. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, no doubt about it. So, Pastor Tillett, just to give you a quick orientation of what we do here on the Peace in the Morning Show, we are asset-based program. In other words, we focus on solutions. We spend a little bit of time talking about what the challenges are, and then we dig all in, a little feedback, all in the space with regard to how do we solve our challenges.
Right.
Because in so many other instances, we see negative. The media, the news, first 15, 20 minutes, you get who got shot.
The crime report.
That's right. Who got shot, who got killed. People read the newspaper, they go right back to the crime pages, the obituaries. And so we want to breathe life into our situation, speak what we want to see come into existence. Absolutely. Hence the name Peace in the Morning. So kicking off with some really good news and something to celebrate. We have coming to town, to Baltimore City this month, the NAACP National Convention.
Yes.
Coming to Baltimore, Maryland, it will be, I don't know the exact number, but I know that we will have thousands of people here from all over the country, both old and young, talking about what's going on in America, in particularly with regard to our civil rights. And being the president of the NAACP here in Anne Arundel County, you'll definitely be there along with a number of other folks. How do you see, what's the major themes this year with so much going on with the new administration, which always has an impact on what takes place in terms of civil rights in America? How do you see that conference shaping up, and what are the key themes this year?
Well, the themes are justice, as usual. We're seeking justice for all people, so we will be dealing with the over-criminalization of the community, and unfortunately, the turn that has taken place since Jeff Sessions has become Attorney General after Donald Trump was elected president of the Electoral College back in November, that they are now pushing back against some of the gains that were made in trying to reduce the criminal industrial complex, stop sending people to jail for the most minor of nonviolent offenses, et cetera. And of course, Sessions is pushing back in the other direction. Of course, we understand that he has a close relationship with for-profit prisons and whatnot from in years gone by, and so he's basically just, paying it forward, or paying it back, if you will, to the people who supported him.
Wow.
So issues of criminal justice, matters of voter suppression, because you know that around the country, wherever Republicans feel imperiled, they begin to claim voter fraud, and then pass laws to affect problems that do not exist.
Right.
There was a study that showed that between the year 2000 and 2014, there were over 1 billion votes cast in elections in the United States. And how many verifiable instances of voter fraud were out of there, do you think there were out of over 1 billion votes cast?
Wow, 1 billion votes. That's a lot of votes. I'd say 15%.
Nah, not even close. 37.
37 what?
37 verifiable instances of voter fraud out of over
Not 37%, but 37
30.
in total.
It's like 0.00000037.
Wow.
So it's not even 1%. It's not even 0.5%. It's not even a 1/100%.
Wow.
So that this whole lie, the okie doke of saying, oh, we have voter fraud, we have to pass these laws to make it harder for people to vote. All that is a voter suppression tactic for people who are in position to stay in position.
Wow.
Which is a direct assault on this democracy we call the United States.
Wow. Well, Delegate Barnes, we definitely have a lot to delve into. One of the things we're going to talk about in a moment is the spike in violence. You know, Baltimore City. We had Michael Collier on the show this past Friday, and he's from Chicago, and so we talked a little bit about his hometown and the violence there. Him being from there, President Obama being from there. Of course, you got the Nation of Islam, which is its home is there as well. Jesse Jackson's home is in Chicago, and we still have this enormous amount of violence. We had a number of young people this weekend past who actually are youth activists, which you've been working with a lot of young people. I want to commend you for that as well. You're not just, as I mentioned, you're a man of God in the pulpit as well as out. And I said that because you do a great deal of work. I've been involved with a number of instances of marches or rallies, and you've been right there with the young people, helping them write out signs, organize behind the scenes, on the street, with them. And it means so much for them to see men, in particular African-American men, and then a man of the cloth as well, not just, as I said, in the church, in the pulpit, but also right there on the street, in the community. And I'm not just talking about on any street. I'm talking about streets where there have been killings and murders.
Right. So
you're not hiding, and you're not afraid to come out. You don't come out with any security guards or any entourage of people, just you and your spirit. And I want to commend you for that, because we need more of that from and then we do have other pastors that are doing it. Don't make the mistake.
No,
there are a lot of brothers that are doing it, and there are a lot of them that are not. And we need more of that, and sisters that are in that space to be able to do that. But we got a real challenge that I want to talk about in terms of here in Prince George's County now, the spike of violence. It had been down for a number of years, but it has gone back up and the homicides and the shootings have started to increase. The city of Annapolis had a spike last year. It's not as bad as it was last year, but we're still experiencing a lot of shootings, the guns that are on the streets. So we're definitely going to touch base on that. But I want to go to a positive story. There's a young man out in Portland, 15-year-old, who just graduated from Portland State University. And the young man, Grant Harder, and his mother were also victims of domestic violence. And so as a result of that, his barber, Gary Hetrick, who's known the young man for 12 years, is helping to pay for him to go to physics school in Scotland to pursue a master's degree. Awesome. So here's a brother who's, got his own business. One of the things that we also focus on is supporting businesses that support our communities.
Us, absolutely.
And so we want to, do what you can to support this brother out in Portland, Gary Hetrick, who is now sending this young man and helping him make it to the next level. And knowing, we created the campaign of Men Aim and Hire Men for Domestic Peace. Mm-hmm. And so this father is helping him and supporting him by making sure that he's in a position to pursue his dreams. Mm-hmm. He's successful in itself by getting a bachelor's degree, which is a big deal in itself. that people don't realize there are not that many people with bachelor's degrees in the country.
And he got a bachelor's degree in physics.
Got a bachelor's degree in physics.
I would still be in college if I were trying to get a bachelor's degree in physics.
My favorite movie is Boomerang. And he said 8 or 9 years. It'd take 8 or 9 years for me to get out of that class. And so, you know, he's on his way to Scotland, you know, to study. And so we want to, you know, definitely give him, his mom, all the credit for those families that have been dealing with domestic violence and have children raised in it. We always encourage you, please go get counseling for your children, whether you know they have signs of it or not, whether you've seen instances where it's affected them, it has impacted them. And so you need to make sure that they understand what they dealt with, and when they see things that either bring them or draw them to it or have them cause that type of behavior on someone else, that they recognize it and then are able to manage it themselves by going back and getting counseling, letting somebody know, I think I have a problem. But don't let your child grow up in a house with abuse and you do not address it. Absolutely. It is one of the deadliest killers in America because there's a direct correlation between abuse and neglect and violence.
And then it passes from one generation to the next because children learn what they live. And so if that's what they've gone through, unless they make a conscious decision to not do that, then they will probably emulate it.
No doubt. And one of the things, Delegate Barnes, I definitely want us to focus on this month as we continue to deal with these issues around violence, because now the mayor in Baltimore was recently met with the governor, Mayor Pugh, and her meeting was primarily around the violence and the support that she could get from the governor. And my understanding, and from reading some of the articles, was that they were talking a lot about what type of law enforcement support they could get, and you know, to have the police, state troopers, you know, and other forms of transportation police to be involved in supporting in areas that their police may be a little short. I was really disheartened by that, though, because and it also involves stronger sentencing. Again, was another piece, parole and probation. And I've worked in that space. You know, I've been in Safe Street meetings. I've been in meetings where they go over the homicide and who was the family, what agencies were they involved in, whether it's child support services, whether it's social services, you know, where was the breakdown in the system. I've been at the table in those meetings, and I can tell you that we are, again, going down the wrong path to address violence. Violence starts at home, period. And then it follows through with what we talked about last week extensively on the show with Michael Collier, and that is with alcohol. There's a direct correlation. Again, the research is there. And so while we continue to have blinders on, let me reverse that, make this asset-based. Okay, there it is. So you answered the question. You know, what do we need to do to shift the policy around addressing violence and continuously going to law enforcement and looking for them to do what we don't want them to do? Because on the one hand, we want the law enforcement to come into the community and stop the violence. On the other hand, we don't want law enforcement to come in the community and be violent. So you can't ask somebody to do something for you that you don't want them to do and then be mad at them when they over-police. Right. I mean, you put it all in their lap, and then you want to turn around and blame them for being over. And you know, of course, you know, there's a lot of arguments about good policing, bad policing, you know, and those conversations. But my point is, when are we going to get to the good part?
Well, part of it, I think, is voters need to hold their elected people accountable. A lot of times they will vote, elect people, and then it's like, all right, we'll see you in 2 years, 4 years, and they don't really ask for anything from them. If you look at the decline in recreation programs, you know, departments of recreation.
That's right. Baltimore City is a prime example.
And
they
other
wiped
opportunities.
out.
It's like if kids don't have an opportunity for positive ventures, positive activities, and it's hot out, and you know, tempers flare, there are way too many guns on the street, then you end up with the negative outcomes. So we need to be in the business of putting more positive outcomes as alternatives, so that they have other things to do.
That's right. I mean, when you look at, again, the trends, I say this because I want people to understand one of the other things that we work to do is we work to speak from research
Right.
and direct experience where we can say, yes, we were involved in that. And this is an issue that I've been involved with for over 25 years in terms of the violence in our communities as well as substance abuse. And it is the same scenario, the same results in terms of what we think we should be doing to support or address this issue. Lock them up, more police, longer sentence. That's just that, and the formula has not worked.
Tried and untrue.
Tried and untrue. And as you said, Baltimore City, about 8 years ago, went through. They cut. The budget was bad, just like it was everywhere else. It was a terrible time financially for the country, and they closed rec centers.
Right.
They closed rec centers, and then at the same time had a proposal on the table to build not one but 2 jails.
Right.
A juvenile detention facility to bring the juveniles that were being housed in the adult facility into a separate space, and number 2, to bring create a separate facility, a brand new facility for women, while they cut and closed recreation centers simultaneously, right? And so, Delegate Barnes, what is it that we can do from a legislative perspective, from the community, to really push? I know we've got a big event coming up tomorrow night with a legislative Black Caucus for the state of Maryland. Is going to be is in here in Prince George's County, Prince George's Community College. But what can the citizenry do to really make sure that we go a different route to addressing these issues of violence instead of just locking us up and not dealing with the root cause, which obviously, if you look at the research, is alcohol. Wherever there are liquor stores, there's violence. Period. Go look it up. Google it right now. Liquor stores and its impact, liquor and its impact on violence. Alcohol and its impact on violence. And number
And
2,
look at the concentration of liquor stores in some communities versus others.
that's right.
If you look at the concentration of liquor stores in Washington, D.C., or in Baltimore City, or in Prince George's County, and then compare it to the number of liquor stores in Montgomery County or Howard County, you will be stunned at what you find out.
No question. And it goes the same thing in Baltimore City in itself. There's a study, I'll post it on our Facebook pages so that everybody can see it, where they actually looked at where the homicides and the shootings took place. There was a direct correlation between liquor stores. In the outskirts of the city, Park Heights, Upper Park Heights, Canton and that part of town, Fells Point, very few liquor stores, very few gunshots. Very few liquor stores, very few homicides. 3 and 4 concentrated on a corner. We keep talking about it. When do we address that as an issue and stop putting money over our people's lives and be more ingenious? We're we're the smartest creatures on the earth, and we can't find another way to generate revenue outside of over liquor and or alcohol intoxication, which is a whole nother issue. As you can see, I'm real upset about this morning.
All right, but the liquor stores are there. People don't have to patronize them. And the only reason that they're there is because they're making money. If they weren't making money, they would close. So in part, that's on the community. If you're upset about all these liquor stores, stop going to them.
So you're absolutely right. And that's part of the strategy that we have to start to employ with our dollar.
Right.
We have to vote with our feet, and we have to vote with our pocket. Before we get to the voting booth, all year long, if you stop supporting certain businesses, they're gonna shut down. Prime example, Bill O'Reilly was sitting on top of King of Fox News, right? He made a couple mistakes dealing with women. They went to work on him. The businesses started shutting down, pulling their endorsements. What happened? No more Bill O'Reilly on Fox. It's the playbook. So why not take that same approach? And you're absolutely right with regard to us patronizing them. The unfortunate thing, and I want you all to look this up as well, viewers, alcohol fetal syndrome is just like crack babies. No difference. Alcohol fetal syndrome. So yes, we could say stop going, but we're already intoxicated and we're already addicted. And unfortunately, the semen from our young people from our fathers and the eggs of our mothers are already drunk. So by the time the child is born, they're drunk babies, waiting. And so the first taste they get of any kind of alcohol, it doesn't even have to be a liquor store. It could be alcohol in some medicine or something like that. Yeah. Mouthwash, they start to become, they're predisposed. So we have a real detoxification that needs to take place. And we always talk about, hold it up, Delegate Barnes, alkaline water. That's what's in here. It's not moonshine, just in case you know. Yes, I have had moonshine, but this is not it. This is alkaline water, and that's what we need to help break that cycle because it raises the pH balance and takes the toxicity out of the body, which then in turn helps to decrease what we're talking about in terms of our young people. Right. But I started on the path, Delegate Barnes, and I apologize for not allowing you to
No, you're
respond.
fine. You know, I kind of want to digress, and maybe we should take a short break and then come back because there was a lot said in a long period of time.
Right.
You know, so, going back to the good brother that's here today from the NAACP, I was taking notes, and, we first started off by talking about criminal justice and criminal justice reform. Right. In the state of Maryland, we passed legislation on criminal justice reform. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not.
I was down there.
But a lot of those things has to do with what's going on today. And we have a bill right now that's before us, which is bail reform. Right. That has a huge impact on black and brown folks here in the state of Maryland. And you talk about voter suppression. I'm putting in a bill this upcoming session that requires every time you get your driver's license, you automatically are registered to vote. Why that has never happened before, I have no idea.
Wow.
But every time...
Yes, you do. You know exactly
But every time someone registers to vote, every time someone gets a license or renews their license, they are automatically registered to vote.
Wow.
So what we're trying to do is increase that. And we passed legislation that says returning citizens now have the right to vote. Right. In Annapolis, some of us got death threats because of that bill, because they did not want that bill to go through because of the power that it has or what they believe. From the NAAC standpoint, I work closely with Bob Ross here in Prince George's County, who's one of my mentors, and Gerald Stansberry. And for you, I wrote down, I'd like to know from you, and I've posed this question to both of them, is how do you think that we can mobilize young people? Because, and I want you to think about that for a second, because you stated voter accountability.
Right.
Right? All of these things that we've been talking about for decades. None of this stuff is brand new. So we always talked about rock the vote, get out and vote, all this stuff. So how do we truly mobilize young people? How do we have voter accountability? It's the darndest thing I always hear, especially around election time. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. Come on, man. I've been hearing that for years.
But not just at election. I'm talking about all 4 years of your term, not just election.
Yeah, but I've been hearing that for years. So my thing is, what do we do as far as truly holding our constituents and voters and elected officials accountable? I've been hearing for years about transparency. That's a new word I guess somebody, thought of or now know what the meaning is. So I'm just curious. I know Bernie Sanders had a movement, was Feel the Burn, which I thought was great. But I just wanted to hear from you so you can tell our viewing audience, what is your idea or what do you think that how we can mobilize our youth?
I think it all comes down to self-interest. When people understand that they have skin in the game, they are more motivated to participate. And I think our young people look at the election cycles and see SSDD, I can't spell it out, but same stuff, different day, over and over again. They see the same cycles, elected officials doing what they want to do and largely responding to campaign donors. So the more money they get from particular sources, those are the donors and issues and causes they respond to. But if voters understand their own self-interest, so for instance, there's this whole concept of, quote, off-year elections. So your election next year, and for the state, from governor down through the state legislature, county governments, et cetera, is allegedly falling in a, quote, off-year election. That's insane. There is no such thing as an off-year election. And in fact, people all get all amped up about the presidential election every 4 years. The president is the farthest person from you in terms of electoral accountability. The people who are closest, people will see you in the store. They might see you over at Wegmans or see you in the mall. They're not going to see Donald Trump in the mall unless he's putting his name on it. Okay, so they need to be more focused on the local races, even in the national races, because
to me,
that's where their self-interest is, and then they can hold people accountable because they know where you are. They know how to get to you.
Right. So it sounds to me it's more education, right? Because I don't think people truly understand what their self-interest is,
right,
or how to articulate what my self-interests are. So I think from the NAACP standpoint, I think we need to do a better job of voter education, voter outreach, because, and I agree, we always say, well, I mean, the numbers show that during the presidential election, voter turnout is a lot higher. During this midterm election, they're obviously a lot smaller. So how do we truly educate voters? Because I think it's a year-round education, and not just when it comes to election time, because that's when I truly see more people saying we need to get out to vote, we need to start registering people to vote. It needs to happen the day after the election and every day until the next election cycle, which I think that will help mobilize young people and getting them more engaged in the electoral process, which I don't think we're doing a great job of. And then lastly, I just wanted to speak on, because you mentioned, I wrote down community policing, race relations, and looking at, the 12 murders that we've had here in Prince George's County over the last couple of days, the 100 and something murders that happened in Baltimore. Annapolis had a spike in crime last year. Right. So community policing, I think, is critically important. And I don't think from Annapolis to Prince George's County to Baltimore that we're doing a great job of community policing. And I know that I've had conversations with our police chief here, as well as the NAACP and other community leaders, in regards to race relations, because race relations is terrible, not only here in the state of Maryland, but across the United States. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, how do we as community leaders, elected officials, all come together to truly address race relations here in the state of Maryland? Because I always say quickly, it's all about perception. Right. When I'm driving down the street and I see some young brothers sitting on a corner on the curve, and a police officer is standing over them, it's the perception that traumatizes our community. And so how do we change the paradigm around that says that this brother here got pulled over because of a traffic light? Why in the world is he sitting on the curb?
Right.
Instead of riding around in our police cars, why aren't we getting out into our community to build better community relations? So those are the things that I think, from the piece in the morning show, that I think from an asset base, how do we come up with solutions? Those are the things that I think we need to dive down to, because as your book says, the okie doke, the wool is being pulled over our eyes every day. Right. And I think, and I appreciate the fact that you came out with your book. You're the president of the NAACP. You're a man of the cloth. My thing is, how do we change the mindset of our individuals, our young people? And as Darius always says, it always starts at home.
Right. And that's where I wanted to start. That
before you start,
yes.
we're going to take a little musical interlude and get ready for just a little jam. As a matter of fact, our first song is "Go with the Flow or Don't Go." We're gonna go with the rock that out, and as we get ready for that, I just want us to be thinking and be prepared to talk about the book, "Stop Falling for the Okie Doke," and how we address what's going on with our children, and how we get them involved. Children vote with their feet as well. We got to go where they are. Here we go. Go with the flow or don't go. Stay with us as we keep on jamming and bringing the Hump Day issue to you right now of violence in our community and how we change the issues that race is having on our community. Here at the Peace in the Morning Show, www.elifemedia.net. Peace and love.
Nobody knows our way out. I'm patient. Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Go with the flow. I don't go. When you see me moving pure and free, all that groove is grooving me. Yes, it is.
right, that was Queen Isudebe, Earth Blessings, Royal Court Orchestra, Peace and Love, Queen to the World, we love you, miss you over there in Morocco right now.
Queen.
No doubt about it. On the other side of the world, this is Darius A. Stanton with the Peace in the Morning Show. I'm here on www.elifemedia.net. Check us out. Last night, that Heartbeat, the Congo, man, they were in here cranking all night long. Well, not all night long, but a very long time. Delegate Darrell Barnes, thank you for joining us. As always, our good co-host, welcome to the show back, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No doubt. And today we had the delight of having a gentleman, a man of God, both in the pulpit and out on the streets. Doesn't just talk about it, but he walks it, and he does it and lives it. And now he's even writing about some of the things that he's experienced, and that is Pastor Tillett, who also just recently retired from the U.S. Air Force.
Retired from the Air Force on January 1.
Congratulations.
Or as one might say, just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
But thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, I want to go back to what Delegate Barnes was saying. We neglect a key area of influence because the people in the community know who the troublemakers are, because they're the ones sitting, have their feet under their tables eating dinner, sleeping in the beds and bedrooms in their homes, etc. Big Mama knows, Pop knows, mom, dad, cousins, brothers, sisters know who these people are. And there are people. So I'm not trying to say that they are the devil, but what I am saying is that some positive peer pressure has to be exerted from the home and from the community. That just, we're not having this anymore.
That's the theme of that song.
And I don't know if I'm sure you attended the Million Man March.
Right, yes I did.
And I remember something that has stuck with me ever since. My son and I were out there, and there was a point when the brothers are all out there, the march is going on, people are speaking, and we began to smell that familiar smell. Somebody lit up a joint. And all of a sudden, and nobody kind of cued it, but all at one, as one almost, it seemed that the brothers said, no, we ain't doing that today. We ain't doing that today. And a moment later, you didn't smell it anymore. Now, ordinarily, if you tell a brother what he can or can't do, there's going to be a beef. There's going to be an exchange. But on that day, because of positive peer pressure, it got shut down immediately. And I'm saying that that family and community needs to stop tolerating it, because we're looking for help from the outside. And the outside is going to come from a militarized police who are going to be pulling out cuffs and having people sitting on the curb, as you mentioned, and over-policing. We want community policing, but not over-policing. But it's a delicate balance to strike when all hell's breaking loose.
Well, I think it goes to the theme that we have now is, if you see something, say something.
Yes.
I never could understand that no snitching policy. Hell, I'm a talk. Especially when it affects our community.
Yes.
It's the darndest thing. Somebody gets hurt, we want to loot and tear up our own community, which always befuddled me. But I agree. I think we have to do a better job of saying, you know what, this is the community that I live in. My kids go to school here. This is where I was born and raised. I want to do my part in trying to take care of it. And once again, it starts with that foundation of home, but more importantly, it also starts with the teachers, the pastors, your friends on the street. It's who you associate yourself with. All of those things make us who we are going to be in life. Right. And I think we have to do a better job of trying to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals. Right. We have to start getting more involved in the church. I think the church needs to play a bigger part. In some cases, and I know here in Prince George's County, the churches have lost respect because they're not doing, or the perception anyway, right, is not they're not doing a lot. They're not getting the respect from elected officials. Elected officials only come in during Sunday during the campaign season. Right. Other than that, we're not visiting. I won't say but they're not visiting any churches. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, where's the respect? Where's the collaborative effort and saying that we want to make things better?
As you sow, so shall you reap. And so I think that unfortunately, in some instances with churches, that they have become praise centers, if you will. So people go there, they worship, they get their praise on, and then they go home. And
leave praise on Sunday, but then you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe some Bible study.
Right. And I will say that there are any number of my colleagues and congregations that are handling their business. But of course, those are not the ones that get all the attention. And a lot of negative attention comes from some of the characterizations that happen on shows, you know, celebrity preachers of this and that and the other on TV, which is not reflective of what most of us do every day.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about.
But I wanted to get to this discussion about race.
Do we have to bring? We have to bring.
No, I'm going right
You're
there.
going right here,
I'm going
okay?
right
Because
there.
we want you to.
So-
and I'm,
so-
just so you know, how much are your books?
$15.99.
Okay, $15.99. So I'm going to buy 2 books and give them away today for anybody who calls in. And the first 2 callers, 240-455-5934. That's 240-455-5934. Written by Stephen A. Gillette. Stop falling for the okie doke.
Race is a social construct. It has no basis in science. So whenever we say race and we're trying to speak about a difference between one ethnic group and another, we've already started with the wrong conversation. The difference between
So in other words, when you say black on black crime versus and white on white crime, that already is a misnomer in itself, because naturally black on black, that's where you are.
right. Well, I mean, the crime is going to be the people that are closest to you.
Exactly.
So you're going to have brown people shooting brown people because
right,
they're the
right,
ones
right.
closest to them.
Right.
White people shooting white people; those are the ones closest to them.
That's right.
So that's common sense. That's logistics. But what I'm saying is that this skin right here, 1/64th of an inch, you peel this back, you can't tell who you're looking at.
Wow.
And as somebody who worked at the Air Force mortuary during my military career and has stood over innumerable autopsies, et cetera, I tell you, you peel it back, it's all the same. Genetically, the Human Genome Project has determined that our DNA is 99.9% the same. So you can have the bluest black brother from the heart of Africa to the palest brother from Iceland somewhere. And because we all come from the same founder population, we all come from Africa and then migrated and spread out from there, that we are the same people. We cousins. So when you see a white person, they're not something foreign. They're not something radically different from you. That's one of your cousins. Might be deeper down the family tree, but it's the human family. So there is no race other than the human race. And then beside that, then you have ethnicity. That's the differentiation, and that's that 1/10 of 1%. But we allow the concept, the false concept of race to be promulgated to the point where we look at somebody different from us as being so radically different, as like they're a different form of the species or something, and that's just not true.
So really, the skin in itself, basically,
1/64th of an inch.
is that the big lie in terms of the separation between who we are?
Well, the lie is how it has been manipulated to for financial gain for some. I'd like to read a little excerpt from the book, quoting from Martin Luther King. And of course, when people talk about Dr. King, what do they want to talk about? You hear Martin Luther King, what immediately comes to your mind? The dream.
Right.
And everybody's so locked in on King as the dreamer that they forget King the prophet. And the role of the prophet is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And that's what he did. But everyone focuses on the dream because that's the most non-comforting and non-threatening part of his ministry. But here's what he had to say. At the conclusion of the Selma to Montgomery March in March 1965, he's speaking and teaching the crowd. And what he says, is talking about the Bourbon interests, the Bourbon Democrats in the South, and essentially those were the Monday Democrats, who are now Republicans, by the way. What they did is they kept wages artificially low by telling poor white workers, you're going to work for this, and if you don't, we'll fire you, and then we'll hire black folk and pay them even less. So then they have those two communities at odds with each other, and the pay scale in the South was the lowest in the country. So then what happens is the populist movement comes up and says, poor black people, poor white people, y'all both getting screwed by the same people. And if you come together, then they're going to have to treat both of you better because neither of you are falling for the okie doke anymore.
Again, economics.
Right. So then this is what Dr. King says. He says, to meet this threat, the Southern aristocracy began immediately to engineer this development of a segregated society Through their control of mass media, they revised the doctrine of white supremacy. They directed the placement on the books of the South of laws that made it a crime for Negroes and whites to come together as equals at any level. So that the moneyed whites in the South, in response to folk getting woke in the late 1800s, early 1900s, as they passed laws to make white people and black people coming together illegal. And then here's what Dr. King said, going a little further. It may be said of the Reconstruction era that the Southern aristocracy took the world and gave the poor white man Jim Crow. And when his wrinkled stomach cried out for the food that his empty pockets could not provide, he ate Jim Crow, a psychological bird that told him that no matter how bad off he was, at least he was a white man better than the black man, and he ate Jim Crow.
So why do you think there's such a divide in 2017?
Still,
It's in our national DNA. We've learned this from
It's in the
from the cradle to the grave.
It started at home.
It
The
started at
foundation,
home,
the
the
baseline.
foundation of the nation.
Right.
Well,
I
see,
mean-
then once again, it goes back to everything that we were saying about voter suppression,
Yes.
race relations, community relations. All of these things have been evolving for years. So at what point do we break that cycle? And how do we break the cycle?
When people wake the hell up and stop tolerating being treated like serfs in a country that is supposed to be the greatest democracy in the world.
And I'm with you 200%. How do we, us three in this room, how do we get the people to start to break that cycle? Because everything that you're reading and saying, and the liquor stores, the criminal justice, we've been talking about for years. So how do we go out one person at a time to start changing this? Because if not, 10 years from now, it'll be a
We'll be having
new
the
set of
same-
folks
and a
sitting
new
here
book and the
and a
same
new book,
conversation.
and we're talking about, man, you know, the old okey doke.
So I'm gonna offer something to you, and I'd like for folks to chime in, give us a call, respond on Facebook, however you like to communicate it. But we have to start. Let's take the human body. If we know that we keep eating something that's going to make us sick, if we know we're going to keep taking something that we know is not good for us, at what point do we turn that plate down? At what point do we stop eating that and say, this is no longer good for my health?
But we see examples of that every day with people who have health issues. They have high blood pressure and they're eating
Right.
all the salt and
So-
high.
So we say we want it, but we don't act like we want
Exactly.
it. And then when are we going to start changing the channel? You know, we like this show that's real popular on television, but all the things in the show are the very things that's destroying our communities, but we still watch the show and give it high ratings. We still support the commercial, the advertisers, because it's not the show that they're selling the advertisement. The content is what draws you in. So at what point do we start to take a stand and turn off the things that we don't need and turn on the things that we do need, and then pull each other up, just like you talked about earlier? You know, we see things in the community. When we were in the Baltimore City Juvenile Justice Center. Brother Troy is watching right now. One of the most violent facilities in the state of Maryland for juveniles. Brother Troy and his program went in. We followed that with another program, and the brothers are still there 8 years later. It had 75 fights a month. At least 25 people were taken out of the building into the hospital because they couldn't deal with them with the medical facility. They would beat up just that bad. As a result of brothers coming in 7 days a week, some dressed up, some in sweatsuits, whatever we had on, we came in, but we were there consistently. And guess what? The violence started to drop to right now in that facility. It's like 15 incidents a month, from 75 to 15. Two things happened. One, you had men come in and take a stand on a consistent basis. They weren't trying to pimp them. They weren't trying to get them to hustle on the street. They weren't trying to rape them and molest them, which we're doing to ourselves in our own communities. We were talking direct to them, giving them real, talking about our lives, talking about our fallacies, the things that we did wrong, the mistakes that we're still making. We weren't preaching from on high. We were like, look, we just in a different part in life. But the other thing we did is we dealt with the mental health and those young people who had been abused and neglected severely and had more documented cases. They were the ones causing the most fights. They were put into a separate unit and given more intensive therapy. My point is, at what point do we start to check each other and be real with each other and stop talking like women behind our backs when the minute I walk out the room, I don't like this organization because they did this. I don't like that guy because he did that. Who of us is perfect? And when are we going to start pulling each other up?
One of the questions you asked, the word sacrifice came to mind in terms of what it's going to take to turn the pattern around. I go to the Montgomery bus boycott. 380 some days before they were successful. 380 some days of walking, rain, snow, sleet, warm, hot, cold, walking, getting rides, developing carpools, that they made the decision that something in the community needed to change, and they were going to ride on those buses until it changed. But we are so lazy and complacent that even though we know the food is unhealthy, we eat it. Even though the music we listen to is unhealthy, we listen to it. Even though the TV and entertainment we watch, we know is toxifying our minds or making our minds flabby for lack of exercise on something substantive, we watch it. So it's like, when are you sick and tired of being sick and tired?
When are we sick and tired of being sick and tired?
And I think it's one person at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time, and just keep trying to move the ball that way. You asked about young people, helping them to understand. You see the shirt I have on is connecting the dots, going where the facts lead us. That's the corporation that is connected to the book, Stop Falling for the Okie Doke. We need to connect the dots for people so that they can make the connection. They can see when this happens, this is the result. When I act in this way, or I buy in this way, or conduct myself in this way, these are the results. If I want a different result, a different outcome, I have to engage in different behavior. And again, that positive peer pressure I cited from the march, that we need to have that in communities, that we're not having this, son, don't even, no. As a matter of fact, we're giving up the gun, and the person you're beefing with, well, I've talked to his mother or his father, we're having them give up their gun too, so if you want to settle it this way, but we're not having another funeral in this community behind some foolishness.
Yeah.
Well, you one of the chapters is hidden in plain sight, and then the other okie doke. I want you to touch on those two things, but we have to go where children are.
Right.
We they play sports. They're there. They're in the mall. They're there. You have to
And
go
they're
where
in school.
children are. Then they're in schools.
Right.
So just go support children where they are. So when they see you, they get a relationship. They respect you. Then they'll listen to you.
Right.
But you got to be there. And it doesn't matter whether you have children or not, because we're all impacted by our community. So we have to invest in our time where we want to see the benefits take place.
Well, see, I think folks are afraid to go where they are.
They are.
There's
no question.
I
got
give
grown men that
give you a quick story. If you see a bunch of kids on the corner and they got their pants hanging down, how many of us are going to walk over there and say, "Hey, man, pull your pants up"? Most people will not go over there because of either fear or retaliation. Mm-hmm. We always talk about the church. The church said we need to stop preaching within these four walls. We need to get outside the church because that's where we need to minister. But how many churches truly go outside of the church? So I think a lot of it starts within. And I think, who was Mr. Speaker that called in yesterday when we were talking about love?
Speaker man.
Speaker man. When he says, you got to first learn how to love yourself before you can love someone else.
Right.
So I think everything that we're talking about today applies within ourselves.
And when you talked about approaching the folks, so you see some brothers on the corner and their pants are sagging. Your first order of business should not be to go in there and say, pull your pants up.
Exactly.
Your first order of business is just to go, what's up?
How you doing?
What's your name? This is my name.
Sure.
Build a relationship.
And build a relationship.
That's right.
Because I remember what one of my colleagues said, talking about a young lady who came to a church where she was, and she was dressed in a manner that some would consider inappropriate for church and maybe not even for church. And what happened was that I guess she looked around and saw how the other sisters were dressed, and she comes to the office, the church office, kind of like, can you help a sister out? Mm-hmm. So they got her some safety pins or whatever. Nobody told her because they didn't want to drive her out of the church. Well, girl, what you wearing? No, she had come to church. They welcomed her, accepted her as she was. She looked around and saw that she needed to make a change, got some safety pins, buttoned up a little bit, and the next week I'm sure was dressed differently. That's how you do, but you don't judge. Judgment does not work. First of all, because none of us are fit to judge.
That just goes back what Darius was just saying.
Right.
You know, see, we even as a race, we're judgmental. I mean, we've been taught and trained to be judgmental. You know,
As an ethnic group.
A-
Remember, ain't no
absolutely.
such thing as this, just human race.
you know,
But as
so
a-
I just think that we as a people,
Right.
we have to do better. We have to start loving each other and demonstrating that love. If not, we're going to continue to fall for the okie doke.
Right.
You know, they're going to continue to pull the wool over our heads. We're going to continue to be led astray. We're going to continue to not have as much as the other folks have. We have to start coming together. You know, nobody else is going to lead us to the promised land but us. You know, so we have to start saying, you know what, I'm tired of it.
Right.
You know, I'm going to make a difference. And you know what, I'm going to pull my brother with me because I know he know two other good brothers, and then he going to pull you and you know two other new brothers. So now that's how we start to create that grassroots movement that says, you know what, this is how change starts to come. Because when you go down those streets in the ghettos and they start seeing a brother walk down the street with a suit on, people going to say, who the hell is that? That ain't Lil Pookie no more, you know. And then they going to question him.
Right.
What's going on with
Right.
you?
What
You doing now?
Exactly.
Because then it starts to change the mindset and the culture in which they live in. See, you know, when Pookie continues to walk, and Pookie may have changed, but he still wants to blend in with everybody else, so he's not changed. But when everything about him starts to change, it starts to resonate within his community, even with his own family, and that's how change really begins.
Now, what I would,
I want you to respond, but I just want you to give your book and how people can find it, because we're at the 10 o'clock hour. We've really rolled on this topic, but let people know how they can get your book.
you can go to iUniverse, the letter I and then the word universe.com. You can buy it there. You can go to our website, connectingthedotsllc.com, and there's connecting-the-dots-llc.com. Or you can go on Amazon and purchase it there.
So it's at iUniverse.com.
iUniverse.com. And if you go to iUniverse, they take less of my money rather than Amazon.
And what's the other? And what's
So
the
we
other?
want everybody to go to our universe.
And what's your website?
Connecting-the-dots-llc.com. The one point that I would like to make to conclude, though, is that we're still approaching this behind lines of demarcation. That we're white folk over there and Latino folk over there and brown people over here saying, no. Poor white people are getting messed over just about as badly as poor black people.
Just as
And so what we need to do is to, in addition to going to the hood and to the barrios, go to trailer parks and poor white communities too and say, we're all getting screwed. My dad used to have a saying. He would say, the only difference between Democrats and Republicans is that the Democrats will usually kiss you first. And I have found that to be true. Because when Republicans are in power, rich folk get richer, poor folk get poorer, and the middle class gets screwed. But when Democrats are in power, rich folk get richer, poor folk get poorer, middle class gets screwed, no matter who's in power. And until we change the dynamic, that's why Reverend Barber is now working with this Poor People's Campaign to say we're pulling people of similar economic interests together.
That's right.
To push back against the offense that's happening to all of us on a daily basis. So we have to go outside the lines, stop falling for the okie doke, and look at any other human being of a similar interest as your brother or your sister that you need to come together with. And the gift of Donald Trump, Lord have mercy, is, there's a verse in chapter 50 of the book of Genesis when Joseph encounters his brothers years later who sold him into slavery. They're afraid he's going to turn them out because he's now running Egypt. And he says, don't worry about it, because what you intended for evil, God used for good. What folk intended for evil, with the Electoral College electing its president of Donald Trump, a whole lot of white folk are getting woke now, who's like, I had no idea it was this bad. We need to take advantage of this season and this opportunity. Start working together with people. I'm not talking about a kumbaya moment, just we're going to sing around and sing kumbaya. I'm talking about putting in the hard work and sacrifice to build community and push back against millionaires and billionaires who've been keeping us all down.
Well, we thank you, Reverend Tillett, for sharing that with us, and we definitely have spread it, and we'll continue to push out, stop falling for the okie doke, making sure that people understand that the race that appears to be dividing us, there are more poor white people in America than there are black, there are more white people on welfare than there are black, there are more white people are being shot by police than they are black, even though you don't know that.
We're coming at a higher proportion.
We're disproportionately shot more.
Yeah.
But the fact that there are more white people being shot by police officers is still a fact that is not communicated. You're not seeing the shootings of white males on television and by police officers like you're seeing the shootings of black males. Why is that? Simply because they want to continue to perpetuate the myth that African Americans are the only ones being killed by police officers.
And the biggest problem is that there's people getting shot by police.
It's the
I'm
problem
not
that
talking about you pointing a gun at them and they shoot you. You earn
Right.
that. But I'm talking about you walking away from them and getting shot in the back or something like
That's
that.
right. And
that's
then
happening to everybody.
Well, and then the other issue is the fact that we continue to talk about black on black murders, and people, somebody running for office, I saw him talk about why we're not up in arms when blacks are being killed by blacks. We are up in arms. While we're not marching in the street, we are marching in the street. There are people that are addressing this, but we have to stop accepting. This is the peaceful moment. Delegate Barnes, anything you want to close out with? Share tomorrow night's event.
That's where I was going. I hope everyone can come out tomorrow night at Prince George's Community College at 6 p.m. In the Rennie Forum, which is inside the Student Union building, for the Black Caucus Town Hall meeting. Very, very important. The NAACP will be there. ACLU will be there.
Young people will be there.
Our young people will be there. Our county council, everybody will be there, because I want to have a unapologetic conversation as it stems around black and brown individuals right here in the state of Maryland. So
doesn't matter what part of the state you live in.
No.
Come on in and be a part of this conversation. Bring your solutions.
Bring your solution. No, I want to hear what's going bad, what's going good, and what are those solutions. Right. Because in order for us to be able to come up with solutions, I got to know what the problems are. So for me, I want to hear it all, because that's the only way that we as elected officials are going to be able to do better, is that we need everyone to come out to have their voices heard.
Right. So join us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. The Peace in the Morning Show will serve as host of the event. So moderator, so we definitely want to encourage you to be a part of the conversation.
Who's moderating?
Darius A. Stanton.
Darius A. Stanton is the moderator.
Show.
Come on now.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I pray that I'm able to maintain my cool and not get my feathers ruffled.
Asset base.
Asset base.
Yeah. Don't get rattled, because it's going to get fired up.
It's going to get fired up.
Yeah. When you got black folks all in the room, they going to come with some issues.
No doubt about it. And we need to. But I want to, as we close for the peaceful moment, the book is Don't Fall for the Okie Doke.
Stop falling for the okie doke.
Stop falling for the okie doke. And we want to definitely, support our brother for bringing the issues of race to the table and helping people understand it's well beyond race. It's more about economics than it is anything else. And as it applies to us, loving ourselves, the peaceful moment, I want to encourage us to stop accepting the unacceptable. Yes. Stop going for what it is that we know is not right in our own lives. I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to myself. I'm pulling myself up.
That's right.
I'm pulling myself up. I'm pulling my brothers up. If I got brothers that don't pull me up, I don't need them as brothers. What good are they?
True.
You don't need a woman in your life if she's not going to pull you up.
That's right.
What good is she? What good is anybody in your life that's not going to tell you that you need to stop doing something that's harming you? So as it applies to our community, it applies to the things that we're doing for our children, the things that we're doing for our health, our welfare. If it is not good for us, stop turning a blind eye. Stop turning your back. Men, you got boys that's beating on their women. Pull them up. Stop letting it go. You can't. How you can hang with somebody that you know is beating their lady? Yeah. You got to pull them up. You just can't let that continue to go on. So we
Yeah.
have to stop allowing the unacceptable to be acceptable.
They're just as bad as them.
Even when it comes to making money. Because what difference are you from a drug dealer in the street if we selling something that we know is killing our people? What difference is it? It doesn't matter whether they make it legal or not. Now marijuana is legal. What? Do you know that marijuana is one of the cannabis that's found in marijuana are one of the 3 things that can trigger something in your body that's only in breast milk and hemp? So marijuana should have never been illegal in the first place based on what it can do for the body. So you let somebody else dictate to you what's good for your body without doing your homework, without doing your research. Stop accepting the unacceptable. As a matter of fact, let me make that asset base. Accept the acceptable. This is Darius A. Stanton with Peace in the Morning. We love you. We appreciate you. Big brother Rick is in the studio. We can't wait to get him in here on Funky Friday. We know he do it for Heartbeat. We want him and Heartbeat to come in with us on Funky Friday because we got Bro Man from the 4th floor coming in this Friday morning on the Peace in the Morning show. Thanks so much for joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you, Rolling Bubba Grounds. A special prayer going out to our brother Terry Hope.
Yes, sir.
Brother been helping and supporting our organizations, the community, Laughter for a Cure. Right now, he's dealing with some health challenges. Our prayers are with you. God bless you. We're closing out with
Get well
Blow
soon,
By.
Terry.
That's right. Queen Anne Cedar Bay Earth Blessings Royal Court Orchestra, one of my favorite jams, Blow By. Check it out. Listen to the lyrics, baby. It's powerful.
Wise man does not judge another man's mistakes, and a patient man, he is always willing to wait. Forbearance causes self-possession to work, and you know a kind man, he never knows how to hurt. These are the virtues for you and for me. Oh, this is the way that I live, and these are the things that I see. My mama, she told me, she said, blow by, blow by, blow by, got to blow by, blow by. A person who is charitable expresses a brotherly love, and devotion is a service to the Almighty One whom you love. With courage we can marshal our very own power, and with precision we become exact, more accurate by the hour. These are the virtues for you and for me. Ah, this is the way that I live, and these are the things that I see. My mama, she told me, she said, no, bye. matter what you read or see on TV, it always deals with you. So be patient and be lovable, and please be kind. Keep discrimination and discipline in the back of your mind, and be lovable and understanding and obedient to